Imagine a place where you need a tutorial to cross the street, where you can be deceived by a beautiful woman lying to make you feel sorry for her, and where you can also smoke tobacco from a bamboo pipe the size of your arms. This is the dark side of Vietnam. Between the 2nd and 19th centuries, the country was ruled by 4 dynasties. The Zhang and Li dynasties were the ones that repelled Mongol attacks and Chinese occupations to keep the country intact and unified. Then, the Nguyen dynasty expanded the territory. It was only in the late 19th century that the French arrived to colonize the country. Many Vietnamese fought for independence and were imprisoned for their cause. Next, the Japanese took control of the territory in 1940 until the country declared itself an independent nation in 1945 after World War II. But this didn't mark the end of Vietnam's struggle for independence. France wanted to regain control of the country, leading to the Indochina War in 1946, where Vietnam emerged victorious. Then, the Americans became involved in the Second Indochina War between the South and the communist-backed North Vietnam from 1955 to 1975. The country finally unified again in 1975 under the Socialist Republic of Vietnam, following the North's victory and the withdrawal of American troops from Vietnam. The country is now governed by a socialist-oriented government and continues to prosper, but there is a scar that still remains after the war: Agent Orange. Agent Orange is a chemical sprayed during combat by American troops between 1961 and 1971, and this chemical is still impacting millions of people in Vietnam. The U.S. program sprayed 80 million liters of herbicides in Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos, according to reports from the Vietnamese Association. The main reason was to kill their enemy's food source. The deadly chemical dioxin was found to be one of the most toxic chemicals known and can lead to serious diseases. The chemical still contaminates Vietnam's soils and rivers, making their plants and fish toxic. Almost 4.8 million Vietnamese have been exposed to this chemical, causing almost 1 million cases of different diseases, such as birth defects, skin disorders, autoimmune diseases, liver disorders, psychosocial effects, neurological defects, and gastrointestinal defects. What's even sadder is that 192,000 of these people are children. As a result, the U.S. government donated millions to clean up the effects, but many scientists claim that many future generations could still be affected. Through expert analysis, it has been concluded that it will take approximately 6 to 12 generations for dioxin levels to subside. One piece of good news in Vietnam is the success story of its economic development after the economic reform in 1986. Vietnam shifted from being one of the world's poorest nations to a middle-income economy in the past 2 decades. Its GDP grew 3.6 times, and poverty rates decreased by over 10% during this period. In 2022, Vietnam's GDP reached $413.81 billion, with a GDP per capita of $4,163.50. By the end of 2023, these numbers are expected to grow to $449.09 billion and $4,475, respectively. Furthermore, income inequality is decreasing over the decades, meaning that more people are moving out of poverty and entering the middle class. This is especially true in urban areas, where the income divide between the rich and poor decreased by 7.6 times in 2026, reaching only 5.3 times in 2020. However, there are still 4.4% of the population living below the poverty line in Vietnam, which equates to about 4.3 million people. These individuals still live in meager accommodations as small as 3 square meters, earning just enough to make ends meet. Perhaps this is why scams and robberies are still common in certain areas, such as the infamous romantic scams. As most travelers are aware, Vietnam's nightlife is popular among tourists, with one of the most well-known destinations being Saigon, or Ho Chi Minh City. However, if you think you'll find the love of your life during these outings, think again. There are many cases of romantic scams in Vietnam. One popular method is the bar girl scam. Beautiful girls who work in bars approach you, ask for an expensive drink, and tell a tragic life story to gain your sympathy and use your money. Most of the time, the girl works for the bar and earns a commission. In the worst-case scenario, they may borrow money from you and then disappear. There is also the travel scam, where someone contacts you through social media or dating websites and asks you to visit them. They offer to make travel arrangements for you and ask you to pay for it. After receiving the money, you will never hear from them again. There is also the sugar daddy scheme, in which a person asks you to cover all their living expenses in exchange for their company and sexual pleasures. Most of the time, they have multiple victims to increase their income. In one case, a man spent $139,000 on this type of scheme. A 54-year-old Vietnamese man living in the United States met a 39-year-old Vietnamese woman living in Ho Chi Minh City through an online dating site. He wanted the woman to visit him in the U.S., but the woman asked him to provide $139,000 for visa purposes. After the man sent the money, the woman disappeared. Another alarming concern is pickpocketing. Although the crime rate is low in Vietnam, theft is the most common crime, especially after sundown. Most roads are not well lit and can be a breeding ground for petty thieves. These thieves are also present in crowded areas, as you will be distracted by many things. Many of them work in groups or gangs to avoid getting caught. They can be anyone, men, women, and even children. Some use children to distract you by asking you to buy something for them. When you take out your wallet, someone will snatch it from your hand. These incidents mostly occur in areas with younger tourists, such as Ho Chi Minh City, Hanoi, and Nha Trang. This is why travelers need to be extremely cautious when choosing their accommodations. Often, you will find that the place is not as welcoming as it appears on the website, and you have to navigate dark alleys to reach your hotel or Airbnb. This can be very dangerous for tourists, especially women. In addition to pickpocketing gangs, one issue that Vietnam can't seem to eliminate is its chaotic traffic. Tourists have even ranked Vietnam as one of the most dangerous places to drive in. This has led some expatriates to refuse to travel to the country. The traffic in the country is so terrible that 30 people die every day from transportation-related injuries. These cases mostly occur due to ignorance, as most drivers view traffic rules as mere guidelines rather than laws. There's even a rule for pedestrians when it comes to crossing the street in Vietnam: don't stop. Since the traffic is so congested, you'll never make it across the other side of the road if you wait for drivers to stop. People usually step into the street without looking and walk straight to the other side without stopping. You'll see motorcycles magically going around the pedestrian without even touching the brake. Another interesting fact about Vietnam is the smoking pipe called Thor Lao. If you go to northern Vietnam and visit a tea house, you'll find people smoking tobacco from a very large bamboo pipe. This unique device is a traditional Vietnamese water pipe and is very popular among the young and old. Many have quit cigarettes and moved on to Thor Lao because they thought it was less harmful. In fact, it has more nicotine content and is more addictive compared to cigarettes. The nicotine is so dangerously high that people who are not used to Thor Lao often pass out after their first hit, so you need to be very careful. A rising crime in Vietnam is human trafficking. The country has even been called a trafficking hub for the region. Most victims were trafficked to foreign countries, but the police claim that trafficking cases within Vietnam are also on the rise. From 2018 to 2022, there were about 440 cases of human trafficking, involving sexual exploitation, labor exploitation, and even the trafficking of human organs. A common ploy that traffickers use is promising an easy job with high incomes doing illegal work in a foreign country to the victims. If they want to return, they need to pay a high fee. Another scheme is promising marriage or adoption. After the victim is out of Vietnam, they confiscate all the victim's documents and force them to work illegally. Vietnamese authorities have been working hard to eliminate this issue and have already rescued more than 800 victims since 2018. Most victims have said that unemployment was the real issue and what drove them to say yes. Vietnam is a vibrant country with a rich history and culture. Despite its problems, the country has managed to make significant progress over the years with its resilience. We hope that Vietnam will improve in the future and overcome its dark sides. Thank you for watching this far, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next videos. Until next time.